have nothing to do.
Fantasy legend Neil Gaiman set himself an impossible challenge. Write a story about the galaxy's greatest comedians. Let me tell you the story of Rebo and Zooty, why they aren't funny, and why this was the perfect approach.
Zooty, zoot.
In the universe of Babylon 5, Rebo and Zooty are a big deal. Check out this newspaper. Their visit to Babylon 5 pushes out a story about local man Londo Mollari becoming Centauri Emperor. They've been mentioned sporadically throughout B5's run, but this was the first time we actually get to see them. Babylon 5 has always had an odd relationship with comedy. Series creator J. Michael Straczynski has written many amusing scenes and situations, but his attempts at actually writing a character who's trying to be funny often feel a bit off.
Tell him, is it you?
It's me most days, except for those days when I don't feel quite like myself, and I suppose that I am someone else. But for now, yes, it's me.
Get us the hell out of here.
Initiating getting the hell out of here maneuver.
So here we have two characters who, in universe, are meant to be the funniest people in the galaxy. Can anyone really write that convincingly?
Don't kill him. That's Neil Gaiman. I don't care if he's the guy who wrote Sandman Volume 1, Preludes and Nocturnes.
Neil Gaiman wrote this story, and in doing so, he set the challenge for himself. But even for the greatest of writers, depicting comedian characters on screen is a unique screenwriting challenge. Back in the early 2000s, Aaron Sorkin, who did West Wing and Social Network, made a show called Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip. Matthew Perry plays this genius comedy writer, who single-handedly writes an SNL-type sketch show every single week. It's a pretty good drama show, and Sorkin can write humor. But whenever we actually see any of the sketches from the show within a show, they're clearly meant to be funny, but come off as painfully unfunny to most viewers.
Mr. Bond, I hope you like your martinis strong.
Like my men.
Do we call you Mongo?
No, you do not. You call me Mongongo. You do not abbreviate my name like the man abbreviated Black History Month.
We know the evangelicals are lining up to tag our toe, and then the corporations will not hesitate to pull their dough.
And yes, I know the real SNL isn't very funny either, but in universe, this stuff is meant to be peak comedy written by a genius. The problem here is that comedy is subjective. If you, the watcher, don't find it funny, but everybody in this fictional world thinks it is, it creates this weird disconnect that can make the whole thing fall apart. So, how does Gaiman get on in Babylon 5? Are Rebo and Zooty funny? Well, nearly everyone on B5 certainly thinks so. To us, not so much. The duo are played by legit comedy magicians Penn and Teller, but this isn't their comedy. Gaiman wrote the script well before they were even cast. In the original screenplay, as Rebo and Zooty are performing their act, Neil Gaiman writes the following: "They are genuinely funny." He clearly needed to add this, because based on what's on the page, it isn't all that clear whether they're meant to be funny or not. From what we see of their performance, Rebo and Zooty do a bit of old Marx Brothers style physical humor, but most of their act is made up of catchphrases and references that we don't get.
And Zooty's friend Bingo, the invisible fish.
But this is actually the genius of it. It's deliberately written so we don't understand the joke.
Well, excuse me!
This was once the funniest thing in America. You could whip out this line and put your friends in stitches. But now, divorced from its time and context, it's impossible to understand why this was funny. So too is it with Rebo and Zooty.
And which Zooty is translated by himself with his machine.
These are catchphrases from a bigger act that we don't know, but the people in Babylon 5 clearly do. It neatly sidesteps the impossible task of writing the greatest comedians ever. Instead of feeling like these guys aren't funny, and Sheridan and his friends have a lousy sense of humor, we instead feel like we just don't get it, like we're missing something. And that neatly links in with the entire central point of Gaiman's story. Later on, Rebo and Zooty reveal that they studied all kinds of humor, including alien comedy. Zooty demonstrates with a Minbari joke. It's clearly hilarious, but it's completely lost on us. We don't know the Minbari language or any of their cultural references. This is also true for jokes in the real world. There's a Japanese joke that when you translate it into English, it goes something like this: "What does a panda eat? It's bread." Now this joke is only funny if delivered in Japanese, where the phrase "it's bread" sounds just like the word for panda. Rebo and Zooty are able to tailor their jokes to their audience. If they met you in person, they'd probably figure out a way to make you laugh. In an older episode, Londo complained that Rebo and Zooty aren't funny.
And the less said about the comedy team of Rebo and Zooty, the better. However,
you don't like Rebo and Zooty? They're hysterical.
Are they? I'm sorry. I apparently mistook you for a human with some taste.
But when they meet him, they change his mind by appealing to his Centauri sense of humor.
You're so funny. From now on, I will always watch you. Zoot, zoot.
And after all that, if you still think Rebo and Zooty just aren't funny, Captain Lockley is your audience surrogate. She's the one person on Babylon 5 who also thinks that they suck. And that's what Gaiman is getting at. Everyone everywhere in the universe is united in having a sense of humor. But as for the things we find funny, that is deeply subjective, rooted in culture and experience, and very, very personal. So what do you think? Are Rebo and Zooty funny? Were they meant to be funny? And is it even possible for a writer to dream up the perfect comedian? Let me know in the comments. That's all for this one. Zooty, zoot, zoot.